Hollywood creates stars, but it also destroys them, and Lindsay Lohan is the proof that some countdowns start without anyone noticing. A girl who had the talent to dominate an entire generation of film, yet ended up fighting battles far darker than any role she ever played. But what really happened behind the scenes? How did a bright, unstoppable star collapse under the weight of fame, pressure, and a world that wanted more than she could ever give? Because the truth is, her downfall started long before the world even knew her name. Today, we uncover the truth. From the outside, Lindsay Lohan's life looked like a dream wrapped in red carpets and camera flashes. She wasn't just famous, she embodied a type of fame that Hollywood rarely sees anymore. Raw, natural, and completely magnetic. The moment she appeared on screen as a child, it became clear that she wasn't just another kid hoping for a chance. She was the chance. She was the spark. She was the type of star casting directors prayed would walk into the room, but behind that glittering smile, the seeds of her downfall were already being planted. Lindsay grew up in an environment where fame wasn't just encouraged, it was engineered. From the beginning, her family believed she was destined for the spotlight, and they weren't entirely wrong. She booked her first modeling contract at just 3 years old, and by the age of 10, she had already been on more commercial sets than most adult actors. But childhood fame is rarely a harmless playground. It comes with pressure, expectations, and a sense of responsibility far too heavy for any kid to carry. Lindsay wasn't just performing for applause, she was performing for stability in a home that was far from peaceful. Her breakout moment came with the 1998 remake of The Parent Trap, and the world watched in awe as a little girl pulled off a performance so charming, so witty, and so believable that people genuinely thought the studio had hired twins. Lindsay didn't just act, she transformed. She became a symbol of joy and innocence. Hollywood loved her, families loved her, and for the first time, she felt the warmth of a world cheering her on. But success, especially early success, can be a double-edged sword, because once Hollywood realizes you can carry a movie, they expect you to carry a career. As Lindsay entered her teenage years, she became a commercial powerhouse. Roles poured in, and each one was bigger than the last. But it wasn't just film studios noticing her. Tabloids, paparazzi, and gossip networks latched onto her like sharks circling fresh blood. Every move she made, every friendship, every outfit, every expression, it all became content. And for a young girl desperately trying to grow, experiment, and figure out who she was, the pressure became suffocating. Her childhood wasn't hers. Her teenage years weren't hers. She belonged to audiences, agents, executives, and cameras. Then came Freaky Friday, Mean Girls, and Herbie, fully loaded, a trifecta that cemented Lindsay Lohan as one of the biggest young stars of the early 2000s. She was funny, she was charismatic, she was relatable, and she had that rare spark that made everything she touched feel authentic. Mean Girls in particular catapulted her into cultural immortality. It was a film that defined a generation, and Lindsay was its beating heart. She became an icon, the kind of star who could dominate headlines simply by walking into a room. If stories like this fascinate you, take a second to like this video and subscribe to Fame and Fortune, because the darker side of this story is about to unfold. But what the public didn't see was the chaos brewing underneath. Hollywood has always been a dangerous place for young actors. The pressure is relentless, the scrutiny is unforgiving, and the wrong influences are everywhere. Lindsay, still young and surrounded by adults who benefited from her fame, found herself dragged into a world she wasn't ready for. Nightclubs became her escape, parties became her distraction, attention became her currency. She was no longer just an actress, she was a brand, a product, and a headline. That was the moment everything started cracking, publicly, brutally, and in real time. Family issues, emotional exhaustion, and the overwhelming weight of fame pushed her deeper into the Hollywood nightlife scene, and the paparazzi followed every stumble, every misstep, every tear. Instead of helping her, the world watched her spiral and consumed her pain like entertainment. Her late-night outings became tabloid gold. And once the media branded her as troubled, they never let her forget it. Work became harder. Set delays, missed calls, and reliability issues started overshadowing her talent. The girl once celebrated for her discipline suddenly became a liability. Productions grew more cautious, directors grew more impatient, and every mistake she made became global news within hours. The world wasn't just watching Lindsay Lohan fall, they were studying it, analyzing it, almost celebrating it. Because in Hollywood, nothing sells like a downfall. But Lindsay's story wasn't just about bad choices, it was about a young woman pushed to her breaking point. And then came the legal troubles. DUI arrests, probation violations, court appearances, mugshots. Each incident chipped away at what remained of her once untouchable image. Her struggles with addiction, stress, and mental health became public spectacle, a storyline the media milked for years. The narrative shifted from Lindsay Lohan, the star, to Lindsay Lohan, the cautionary tale. And Hollywood doesn't wait for anyone. The roles stopped coming. Opportunities dried up. Studios weren't willing to gamble on someone the public believed had lost control. But what most people never understood is that Lindsay wasn't the villain of her story. She was a young woman drowning in expectations, surrounded by the wrong people, and deprived of the privacy necessary to grow. She made mistakes, yes, but she also desperately needed help, real help. Not cameras, not headlines, not mockery, help. One of the saddest parts of her downfall is that Lindsay Lohan wasn't just a celebrity losing her footing, she was a human being unraveling under the pressure of 1,000 watching eyes. Every time she tried to rebuild, the past dragged her back. Every time she attempted a comeback, people mocked her efforts or questioned her sincerity. Hollywood has a toxic habit of loving its stars when they shine and abandoning them the second their light flickers. But the truth is, Lindsay never stopped fighting. She entered rehab, she faced the courts, she navigated the hardest years of her life under a microscope. And slowly, painfully, she began rebuilding herself, not for the cameras, not for the studios, but for her own survival. Her comeback wasn't perfect, and it wasn't fast. It came in small steps, guest roles, interviews, appearances, and later, full projects that allowed her to show the world she still had the fire that made her a star. She moved away from the Hollywood environment that fueled her downfall and focused on healing. She embraced entrepreneurship, took control of her personal life, and eventually returned to acting with a sense of maturity she never had the chance to develop earlier. People forget that recovery isn't a straight line, it's a series of climbs and collapses, and Lindsay climbed. Sometimes slowly, sometimes painfully, but she climbed. Her journey became less about fame and more about survival. Her story shifted from tragedy to resilience, and today, she stands not as the girl who lost everything, but as the woman who refused to stay broken. Beyond Hollywood and public scrutiny, Lindsay Lohan's story also highlights the intense pressure on young women in the entertainment industry. The expectations weren't just about talent, they were about image, appearance, and maintaining a persona that fit a brand carefully crafted by studios and media. Every decision she made was dissected, every outfit critiqued, every interaction analyzed as if she weren't a person but a product. This relentless focus on perfection created a cycle of anxiety and self-doubt, making her vulnerable to destructive habits and toxic relationships. And while the world often painted her as reckless or irresponsible, in reality, she was fighting an invisible battle, a battle between who she was and who the industry demanded her to be. Understanding this adds depth to her story. Lindsay Lohan wasn't just a cautionary tale of fame gone wrong. She was a reflection of an industry that often chews up talent and discards it before giving them a chance to truly grow. Because at the end of the day, Lindsay Lohan's rise and fall isn't just a Hollywood story. It's a story about a young girl thrown into an adult world too soon. A story about fame that became a prison. A story about mistakes, consequences, growth, and redemption. It's a reminder that even the brightest stars burn out when the world forgets they're human. And maybe, just maybe, it's also a reminder that people deserve second chances, no matter how far they fall. This has been Fame and Fortune, where we uncover the untold stories behind the world's most unforgettable stars. If Lindsay Lohan's journey taught us anything, it's that fame may shine bright, but its shadow can be just as dark. This was Fame and Fortune, uncovering the truth behind Hollywood's brightest rises and darkest falls. If you want more stories the industry tried to hide, subscribe. The next one hits harder than you think.